Hello, Algebra students. This is Ms. Den, and I am doing a short lesson on reviewing quadratics so that you are prepared for the upcoming assessment. You have all this information in your notes, but just in case you didn't bring it home or you want a refresher, here we go. So, quadratics. Another name for a quadratic is a parabola. What makes a quadratic is that there is an x squared in the problem. Even if it looks different, even if you have parentheses and the squared is outside, that's good enough. It means that if we did multiply this out, the x would end up being squared. We haven't really talked about how to multiply that out, but the idea still is that you have an x squared in the problem, and that's what gives our graphs this kind of a shape or this kind of a shape. If the x squared term is positive, that's what gives us, oh my gosh, my video. That's what gives us this shape. And if the x squared term is negative, that's what gives us the upside down shape. So we have three forms. The first form that we talked about was standard form. In standard form, the equation would look something like this. Y equals x squared minus 2x plus 3. The number or the coefficient of the x squared term and the x term and the number by itself are all important. We call them a, b, and c. In this case, the a is 1, the b is -2, and the c is 3. To graph a quadratic in standard form, the first thing we do is find its vertex. To find the vertex, we find the x value of the vertex first. The x value of the vertex in this case is going to be found by taking the opposite sign of b and dividing by 2 times a. The opposite sign of b is +2. Divided by 2 times 1, we get 2 over 2, which reduces to 1. To find the entire vertex, I need an x and a y. I just found the x. To find the y, I plug that 1 back into the original for x. So the y value would be found by doing 1 squared minus 2 times 1 plus 3. Gives me 1 minus 2 plus 3. 1 minus 2 is -1 plus 3 is 2. So there's my vertex. I need more than just a vertex to graph it. Vertex only tells me where the maximum or the minimum point is. So for standard form, the other point that I'm going to find is the y-intercept. And in standard form, the y-intercept is that letter C. So my y-intercept is right here. We also find what we call the mirror point. The other thing we also needed to locate was the axis of symmetry. So that is the vertical line that goes through the vertex. My axis of symmetry here is the line x equals 1. Remember, you need to keep that in equation form, not just say 1, but x equals 1. So if my y-intercept is here, my mirror point is right on the other side of the axis of symmetry. Now I have enough points to give my parabola some shape. Okay, second one I'll do is factored form. What we also sometimes call zeros form. The equation for that would be something like this. The first thing we do with factored form is not find the vertex, but find the zeros. So by laying it out this way, the number inside each of these parentheses tells us where the zeros are, but we use the opposite sign. So we have +4 as our first zero and -6 as our second. To find the vertex, we need to find the x value that's halfway in between these two. So I can count in with my fingers. Or I can go, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 in, 1, 2, 3, 4 in, and then one more from each side is going to get me here. So the x value of my vertex is going to be at -1. Plug -1 back into the original, just like we do in standard form, to get the y value. So we've got 1/2 times -1 minus 4 times -1 plus 6. I'm going to do what's in the parentheses first, order of operations. So I'm going to have -5 here. I'm going to have 5 here. When we multiply this out, we try to hope that we're going to get a whole number. In this case, we don't. We're going to get -25 over 2, which reduces to -12.5. Here's my graph. So that means my vertex was at -12.5, for the y, -1 for the x. So -1, -12.5. If that goes off of your graph, it's okay. Just draw 12.5 down there. And we've got our parabola. Our third type, make sure this is in the video. Our third form was called vertex form. Vertex form would be something like this. From vertex form, the easiest thing to do first is find the vertex. The vertex is given to us in the form, which is awesome. So we use the opposite sign of the number with the x as our x value, and the same sign as the number that's by itself as the y value. The vertex of my parabola is -1, -3. And then to figure out where the parabola goes, I need to make a t-chart. So this is where, okay, what x value should I pick to make this chart? Well, if my x value of my vertex is -1, I need to pick one number to the right and one number to the left. So 0 and -2. These will both give me the same y value. Plug either one into my original. So I'm going to pick 0 because it's going to be a little easier. So I'm going to have -2 times 0 plus 1 squared minus 3. Order of operations, do what's in here first. Square that term next. Multiply next. Add together. So that means for both both x values, 0 and -2, I get the y value of -5. So now we're going to go 0, -5, -2, -5, and I've got my parabola. The only other thing that's on our test that we haven't discussed in this video is projectile motion. So that was where we throw a ball off of the roof of a building, and we're asked all different kinds of questions about the ball. So you'll have to use your graphing calculator for this. I'll give you an equation. You're going to graph it in your calculator. You're going to need to know the y-intercept, the vertex, and this 0. So let's say this ball, let's say this is at 10, this is 15, this is 1.5, and this is 3.2. So that means this max is happening at 1.5, 15. This 0 is at 3.2, 0. And the different questions you could be asked are, how high was the ball when it was thrown? There you go. How high was the ball when it was thrown? 10 feet off the ground. How high did the ball get? Y value of the vertex, 15 feet high. At what time did the ball reach its maximum height? 1.5 seconds later. How long was the ball in the air? 3.2 seconds. So that's it. There's our quick review. I'm going to post a couple of questions for you to practice, but hopefully this video helped. Thanks.